Hey everyone, we are the Below Average Golfers, and we are raising money for the Travis Sharrett Growing the Golf Game Scholarship.
On September 18th, 2023, we are each tasked with birdieing all 18 holes at Arrowhead Golf Club in Greenfield, Indiana. The course has been generous enough to give us special permission to play from the time that the course opens until the time it closes.
The Travis Sharrett Growing the Game Scholarship is targeted to help student athletes on the golf teams at Eastern Hancock High School and Greenfield Central High School here in Indiana, which is where Owen and I went to school.
As 18 and 10 handicappers, this is a tall task, but we are up for the challenge and would love your help with donations. There are many ways to donate. You can donate for each birdie made, maximum of 36 birdies, each eagle made, if we hit a hole in one, and then if you're a corporation or if you just want to sponsor a hole, you can do that. And if you're just generous enough to contribute to this, you can donate to the scholarship fund directly.
To get involved, please visit the links in the description below. There, you will see more information on the challenge, a Google form to pledge donations, and a GoFundMe to make miscellaneous donations.
After the challenge is complete, we will be going through the process of selecting winners for this scholarship. If you're a student athlete that participates in golf at Eastern Hancock or Greenfield Central and you're interested, please see the details below to learn how to apply.
For a cause that means so much to us, we're super thankful for anybody that decides to donate, and we hope that we can birdie all of those and maximize the donations for this scholarship.
Start off with hole one. Now, Caleb, although the series is going to start off with hole one, sounds like we have a little insight that maybe we're not starting on hole one. Is that correct?
Yeah, from my understanding, there's going to be a league play scheduled that morning. So probably what's going to happen is we're going to loop 10 to 18 twice. And then by that time, the front nine will be cleared off, and then we can go off of one. So we'll already have 18 holes in by the time that we get to hole number one. But shouldn't be a problem. You know, we're trying to birdie all of them. So doesn't matter what order, you know, hopefully by the end we're jumping around from 6 to 11 to 14, you know what I mean? Just jumping because we've already made so many birdies. So, you know, hopefully we can do that. But yeah, starting on hole number one, I'll probably suggest that we play the white tees just for the sake of the day. I know there's not a whole lot of difference out there at Arrowhead, but it might save us just a little bit and give us a little bit more comfortable numbers. But yeah, hole number one, slight dog leg to the right. There's no good way to go right at the hole just because there's a creek bed and then there's some trees. Personally, I'll let you speak for yourself, but I'm going to try to go right at that bunker that starts the fairway. That's going to be my aiming point. And then just wherever it lands. Hopefully it takes a little bit of a draw, or a little bit of a fade, and gets on the fairway to the point where the fairway kind of slopes down towards the hole a little bit, not a whole lot. But hopefully, you know, it can catch enough of that to just kind of roll out and leave me something, you know, 100 yards or something in.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree because I think that below average golfers, I'm definitely below average golfer off the tee. I think that by taking that line, or at least, you know, aiming that direction, is that if it's, you know, going a little right, you can get you do run the risk of getting here in these trees, which is that little creek bed. But I have found myself just outside of that multiple times where it's like probably a little luck. But if it is kind of fading a little right, then you know you still have a pretty decent shot in. Alternatively, if you're hitting it left, you're also, it's not ideal because you're probably 130 to about 150, I would say, if you end up going left of the target line. But that's still it's a wide enough hole there, and there's no trouble unless you really go left, to where you can still have a comfortable shot in. Now, clearly, we're aiming here. We're aiming over the bunker. We're gonna leave probably 105 to anywhere from 105 to 85, just depending on kind of how things are rolling that day. and how well we're hitting at that point. So tend to agree there. Um, I think that normally we're going to be pretty warm by the time we get to hole number one. Normally, I'd be a little more nervous about this hole because I find myself a lot on this hole ending up over here, which
Right.
is kind of the driving range area, which you do, surprisingly, you do have an angle in. So if you end up a little right of the trees, and for the audio listeners, you're kind of in a bad spot, and it looks bad spot on the GPS provided by 18 birdies. But as long as you're not in the range area, you're still inbounds. You still have about 120 in if you get the ball up quick. You still have an angle in there. But so normally I'm a little more nervous on this hole, but because we will be so warm at that point, pretty confident in this as long as the driver's going well. Now, all that to say, I think something that, and I think that we should do this on every hole, is that, and I think you have to worry about this less than I do. But I do have to plan a little bit for if I am just not figuring out my driver that day, which is definitely possible. What is the next best option for me? It's not ideal, right? I mean, all the data says that you need to be getting as close to the hole as possible to have a better approach shot in. But we're going to be playing a lot of golf that day. We're going to be fatigued. Driver takes a lot of energy for sure. And then especially if you're not hitting the driver well, it takes a little more energy as well. So Caleb, I guess from your perspective, let's say, again, you have to worry about this less than I do. But let's say you're in a position where driver is just not your friend, or maybe you want to take a little off. What would be kind of your game plan outside of just taking driver over the bunker?
Yeah, I mean, so if Coach Scott is with us, he'll probably talk me out of it.
Yeah.
But if I'm not going driver, if I feel like it's not working, I want the straightest path to the hole. And
Okay.
I have been in that little, we'll call it the upside down V right there plenty of times to where I'm somebody that can get the ball up fairly quickly.
Yep.
So if I can give myself, a 220, 230 yard shot right at that V, or even like, 240, 245, right where our marker is, I'm still fairly confident in myself that I can get it up and over the trees, especially in September. Hopefully the leaves are starting to break just a little bit, to where I'm just going to take the shortest path to the hole. I'm hesitant to go out to the left with anything that's like 230, 240, because,
Then
I'm
you're leaving
still leaving
180.
myself, 180 in. That's not ideal for a birdie, at least for me. So I think if I don't end up going driver, it's definitely, I'm aiming right there at that V, and I'm still going to try to be somewhat aggressive with it.
No, that's completely valid. I wasn't even kind of thinking, to be honest, I wasn't thinking about that because as I started, as we were talking through it, I was like, oh man, what would I do? Because that does leave. I mean, if you're going, let's just call it 215, which I could get with an iron off the tee. Um, yeah, it's still leaving me 174 to the hole, which is again not ideal for a birdie. You have
Right.
to be pretty good with a 6 or 7 iron that far out to be comfortable there. And clearly, green in regulation is more important than ever when we're talking about the birdie challenge. So yeah, taking it there, not ideal. Probably odds are against us a little bit, but it definitely gives us a better chance because that's call it 150 to 140 in, much more comfortable shot approaching in, especially if you can get it up quick. So good thought there. What else are you thinking about this hole? As far as, is there anything else like thought wise? Like, is there anything that you look at this hole and go, you know what? If I'm getting desperate, it's the sun's winding down. Hole number one hasn't been the one that I've gotten, or it's on the short list of ones that I haven't birdied yet. Are there any things that you're kind of taking high risk, high reward on this hole, or are you kind of sticking to the strategy no matter what, as long as things are going well?
Worst case scenario, it's 7 p.m. and it's our last hole, and we just need to make something happen. I still might aim right at the V and then just pull driver and hope that I catch it decent enough to where I either get a good hop off the hill, or maybe the creek bed's dry, or, the leaves are gone. So my ball just goes through the trees. And hopefully at that point I'll have, maybe I can put a little bit of a draw on it. And then if I happen to do that, then it's going to land, probably where we're at, probably a little bit to the left, to where, maybe 280-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I get lucky and catch the slope, and it takes me closer to the cart path.
Right.
That's worst case scenario. The unfortunate thing about this hole for me is I probably have only birdied this hole maybe 5 times. I did birdie it myself the other day in the outing, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, this hole, I texted you guys the other day. I had a quadruple bogey yesterday on it. So
right. But do you I think the only, and I wonder, we're only used to, outside of, outings, we're only used to taking our first tee shot on this one, right? Or we're only used to kind of knocking off some of the rust, for the most part on hole 1. So do you think that do you think it's more, because it's the 5th hardest hole via handicap, it's the 5th hardest hole on the course for sure, but do you think it's the way that the hole's structured, or do you think part of it is just because it's hole number 1 and you're usually just walking in, not having time to warm up? You know what I mean?
I would say it's just because it's hole number 1, because like I said, I birdied it the other day by myself. So I know that I can do it. And if I'm feeling comfortable, if I'm feeling good, then, I'm going to attack. I'm aiming at that bunker, I'm sailing it, and hopefully, we get somewhere close, to where, have a 52 or 56 in that's comfortable. And then we can, get up on the green. The green doesn't really do a whole lot. So it's just going to be about, the speed and all that. So I think that since we're not starting on 1, it's going to give me confidence going into 1 that I can do it and get it out of the way and not have to worry about it anymore.
For sure. Okay. Is there any part of you, I know that, not to spoil a above average golf moment for you yesterday, but I've seen that you've hit some drives that, end up 340, 350. Any part of you that's thinking about just taking, just completely going for it?
Yeah, oh man. There were a couple factors that we talked about that led to the 341 yesterday. Which I'm surprised T didn't say anything, but I was ready to tell him that there was not much wind yesterday. So I just caught it perfect. I swung out of my shoes and just happened to catch it perfect. A little bit of a draw. So I know it had some extra bounce, had some extra kick. I will only really try to go for it if there's a little bit of wind behind us. Okay. If there's not any wind behind us on 1, it will do me no good, because then at that point, I'm either ending up in the driving range or I'm ending up in the trees on the left.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been in those spots too many times to count. But.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've settled off the tee. Ideal state is to go, I think we're both pretty capable of getting at least 270, 280, if not more. So that leaves us about 100 yards in. Any feelings on the approach shot, anything? I think it's pretty straightforward. But is there anything that you kind of, outside of off the tee, which is a big part of the planning, is there anything else that you kind of have in mind for hole number 1?
Yeah, I think to start off with, at least the first couple times that we play it, I'm going to try to go maybe take a little bit more as far as a pitching wedge, and then just kind of chop at it, depending on where the flag is, for sure. I've told you I still need to talk to Chad out there, which shout out to Chad and Heather out at Arrowhead for letting us do this to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
They're great people. But yeah, I was going to talk to Chad and say, hey, if I come out on Sunday and I fix a couple divots, on each green, like, can I set the pin placement almost, maybe with a tee or something like that, for the greenskeeper the next day, which in that case, I mean, that's something that we could probably discuss, but, I like the middle of this green. Um, it's a spot where there's not a ton of break, which this green doesn't like to break as much as you see anyway. So there's that.
No.
Um, but yeah, I'm thinking maybe middle left, just to give us a good angle on our approach shot on the second one, or for our second shot, the approach shot. So yeah, just taking pitching wedge, kind of chop at it a little bit, hopefully catch a little spin or two, and either have it like, just stop or maybe roll out just a little bit, to where I have, no more than like a 15, 20 footer.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna, and I've been using it quite a bit this season, but I think regardless of pin placement, and I think you have to be a little more strategic when we're talking about trying to get birdies, which hard for me to do, but like, I've been doing like the club up strategy from Sherman, where it's like John Sherman, Practical Golf. It's like if you aim for the back of the green, not the middle or the front. So like on 18 birdies, like this says it's a 100-yard shot, but it also gives you the number of, it's probably about 110. So I would be kind of dialing in more to the 110 number, because in the event that I catch it good, maybe, then fine. I kind of pay for it. But in the more likely case that I don't catch it as well, or I catch it fat or whatever, I have a better chance of actually getting up on the green still. So definitely going to use that strategy the entire time and try to stay loyal to that. Now, again, we'll have to be pin hunting, especially as the day goes on. But early on, that's definitely going to be my strategy. I don't have the green contour tool that they have now. I think as we go into the finale, clearly we'll dive into that more. Anything else that you have to say about hole one overall, or the green, or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to miss short on this. That's kind of why, like, it's going to be almost a chop rather than like a full shot, just because if it wants to, stop short or whatever, if I don't pick it cleanly and then it ends up, 5 yards, 10 yards short of the green, then, where we would prefer to have it, I'm still not out of the weeds or out of the woods by, any stretch of the imagination. I can get it up there and hopefully, chip one in, because it's still fairly flat. Now, if I go left or long and left, or, long and maybe like anywhere from 12 to 2 on a clock, yeah, I'm going to be in trouble, because it's not as easy of a chip. But anything short, I think I can handle. So maybe, later in the day, I'm feeling more comfortable, I'm taking a wedge instead of the pitching wedge. In the 56, I come up short. That's fine. I'll do my best to chip in, from there.
No, that's a good thought there. Yeah, I think if you are long, or if you're to one of those sides, you're in a little more trouble. But yeah, if you are short, you're actually okay. So maybe rethink that slightly for myself, on that one. Okay, cool. All right, hole number two. Feel a lot more confident about hole number two. Personally, it's pretty straightforward. I'll let you do the overview for the listeners, Caleb.
Yeah. So number 2 is right down Main Street. The slightest hint of a dog leg, depending on where you stand on the tee box, you probably wouldn't even consider it a dog leg. But yeah, right down Main Street. And this one is going to be aggressive all day for me.
Okay.
There's zero reason that I'm going to try to go short, because we have it right here pulled up to where 286 is still 40 yards from the hole, or from the middle of the green. So, depending on where the wind is, be a little more aggressive with it, or try to take some off and then let it bound a little bit. But we're still going to be within, 50 yards, or probably less, most likely most of the day. and then maybe even have the chance to drive the green. I've done it before. I know you've gotten close. I don't know if you have, but I know, I've been with you when you've gotten close. So,
Yep.
This one is a green light special, to try to fly the green. The green is kind of sloped from front to back, um, as far as going up. So I'm less concerned about, if I catch the green on the fly or, something like that, it's probably not going to roll as far, off the back. Now, if I catch it super clean, then, it might land in the middle and then bounce off, which then we have something a little bit to worry about, just because that back side of the hole is just a little bit sloped, back down. But for the most part, right at it. Miss right is okay. I've been on the right side of that plenty of times. Left is not ideal, but where you and I will most likely hit it, I think we'll be okay. I think we can still be in front of the trees, especially if it gets down low enough, to where we're still going to have, 65, 70 yards in.
Yep.
But yeah, this one is flag hunting all day.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, like, for me, like, this is the hole that I go for a little more, because yeah, if I'm putting it out right, like, I'm still like let's say I hit it, not a complete slice, but definitely going in that direction. I can still get it, to 100 yards or in, even on my miss there. Like you said, to the left, you're in a little more trouble for sure. But fun fact on hole number 2, I have chipped out from, or I guess hold out, I should say, from, I can't remember what the actual distance was that day, but really kind of this area we're looking at, Caleb, it was probably about 75 yards out. I've holed out
Nice.
for a birdie before.
Nice.
So have some experience. You definitely have some shots in at it, from that area, if you're far enough down there. But yeah, this is the hole that I probably had the most green in regulations on. Probably have had the most birdies on. I don't know. I may be incorrect as we go through this, and I don't know if there's historical data on that being true or not, but definitely feels like one where I am the most confident going into. Not a lot to it. The green is a little more difficult. There's definitely, like you said, a little more slope compared to like number 1 and some of the other greens out there. But ultimately, I mean, we're talking about getting pretty close to where we can have a pretty good approach shot in, and control where that's going from there a lot better than a 150-yard shot in. So, not a lot to this outside of that. I mean, is there, again, like, if the driver's not feeling well, the thing about this too is that you can hit it, 200 to 215 and still have 120 in, if not a little less. So that this is also could be like okay, we're not going to absolutely go for it. We're going to maybe save a little energy for 3 and for 6, which we'll eventually get to, and maybe just take an iron off the tee and still have a pretty decent distance in, just again depending on where we're at in the day. So again, disaster planning a little bit if the driver is hurting a little bit on the day, just alternative options off the tee. Is there anything else? There's not a ton to it outside of that, right?
No, I mean, if anything, this hole for me is going to be if the driver's not working, like, this is the hole to get it back on track.
Yeah.
To where I can swing, just try to remember the fundamentals and swing my swing. And, maybe it lands, 250, 260, to where I still have, less than 100 yards in. If it's a little bit to the right, that's fine. If the ground is hard enough, we can probably swing easy, like you said, to begin with, and it'll roll up there. I've had that happen before, to where I hit it and I did not think that it was going to get close, and I was left with a bump and run, 10, 15 yards out. So, yeah, I mean, this hole is driver for me all day, whether it's going good, whether it's going bad. This is going to be the hole to either, fix what I'm doing, or it's going to be the hole that's like, hey, we got this. Let's go. Let's get that birdie or maybe even the eagle.
I'll be pretty disappointed if we're playing this past like 2 o'clock that day. Like
Yeah,
if we're grinding after 2 o'clock on this hole, there's bigger issues out there.
for sure.
And you never know. Like the thing that's so weird about this challenge is like we're probably gonna birdie a hole, or like we're probably gonna birdie a hole sooner than we think, but we're also probably gonna struggle with a hole more than we think, just because it's weird and what we're doing is not normal golf for sure. But I will say again, this with everything that we have said, if we're playing this past like 2 o'clock, it'll be a little frustrating for sure.
Yeah, the hole that I want to birdie that I don't think that I will, like to begin with, is easily number 4. Um, I hate that hole with a passion. We'll talk about that one next week. But I hate that one. And then the hole that, I don't think I'll birdie as soon as I want to, will probably be like 12 or 13, just because they're shorter, they're reachable, but there's still a little bit of tree trouble back there, which again, we'll get to those. But like you said, we're definitely going to have those where it's like, really, like we got this one, but we can't get that one.
Right. 100% going to happen. 100%. Okay. Hole 3, third hardest hole on at Arrowhead. This is where the famous 340-yard drive happened for Caleb the other day. So he may have a little different path than most on this hole, but it is pretty difficult. The reason why is that if you get one out there, you're still looking at about 130 in, and guess what? There is a creek right in front of the green. So that is 100% in your head. And if you go long, you're in somebody's yard.
Yeah. If you go left, you're in somebody's yard.
If you go left, you're in somebody's yard. Now, if you go right, you're by the tee box number 2. Depending on where you land, there's some trees over there, so you may not have a great shot in, but sometimes you may have a decent look in. Don't have to worry about some of those trees. So you do have to be pretty accurate off the tee on this one. Definitely one that will give me some nightmares for sure, because it's not only about off the tee, it's about the approach shot, because again, it's not a comfortable, maybe a comfortable number, it's just not a comfortable shot because of the factors of the creek and the houses surrounding it at the back of the green, not to mention the cart path to the right of the green. There's just a lot that can go wrong here. But Caleb, what are your thoughts on this hole going into it?
Yeah, so being a straight hole with no room left, I think both of us should be okay for most of the day. I can get a little pulley if my wrists get a little active, but I've been working on that, so hopefully that's not the case. I do seem to find myself behind that set of trees.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, right there.
Oh,
a lot. It is very frustrating when I end up there. Whether it's, right up next to him, whether it's 20 yards behind him, I'm still trying to work my ball either under it or over it to where it's not a straight shot. So again, hopefully there's less leaves. Hopefully I can keep it straight somehow like I did the other day or yesterday. But yeah, I think and this is obviously, again, we're going to talk about this for sure, but the flag placement on this one, to me, I think needs to be in the front third. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I think both of us can get the ball up in the air fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if we have that comfortable middle number to where we're not worried about going over, like, it's not even a factor in our mind. Like, hey, we're going for the middle of the green no matter what. If we get a little spin on it, it'll react just because it's sloped from back to front just a hair. So yeah, I think if we can catch that front right portion of the green, that's going to be the most helpful for us, just because, again, it takes away left and then it somewhat takes away long. And then we just have to be super comfortable with hitting up and over the creek, which we do it all the time. So it's mainly just a matter of where it goes. Yeah. And even if we just barely get it over the creek, it's still semi flat there. to the point where I don't think a chip in is out of the question if you
No.
land somewhere in between the creek and the green, whether that's to the right side or straight at it.
Yep. No, you make good points there. I think that, yeah, we just have to, I mean, yeah, the middle number, the pin placement is definitely important on this one. Definitely makes things a little easier for sure. But I don't know. There's still the, I don't know, Caleb. I don't know. Sometimes I definitely get in my head on this hole for sure, because sometimes I'll just catch a bad shot because I'm thinking so much about this freaking creek. I don't know why, but maybe I'll just
Well, and that's where I think, Scott can be super helpful, if he is able to come down, to try to just, get that out of our minds. Like, hey, find your number, pick your number for the middle of the green, and let's go. And I think if we do that for each other, I think if he does that for us, um, then we'll make not easy work or light work of this hole. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is one of those holes where, you know, we get it early just because, we're warmed up, we're confident with each other, we're confident with our numbers by then, to where we can just knock it in.
Yep. No, that's a good point. Coach Scott will help out a bunch. I think having confidence will help out a ton as well. And because this is something that we're both trying to do, we'll be hyping each other up as well, helping each other out. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, no denying. Again, it's the third hardest hole on the course, but definitely think that, yeah, this could be one of those where it's like, oh, we're done with this one by 2. Okay, cool. Don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that one again. Like, it
And
definitely could be that.
I'm a total stooge when we're out on the golf course, and like sometimes when I make a birdie or if I make a fairway and it's a clean hole, like I'll just joke around and be like, all right, fairways and greens, golf's an easy game.
Right.
And I think like obviously that's a fairly decent cliche in golf, but for Arrowhead, I think that is crucial for this hole because
100%.
again, this green is nothing. It slopes from back to front. It's fairly flat as long as you don't get too far into that back left or, maybe the front left quadrants on it. So if we can keep it in the front right, then it's going to be, hey, this one's going to break 6 inches most. Um, it's going to break, not at all. And I think we'll be feeling it to where we can even walk one in.
Yeah. Walk one in. Yeah. Cool. Well, anything else you have to say about hole number 3 before we wrap it up?
If I birdie hole number 3, there is zero chance that I'm birdieing number 4, so I might as well skip it. If the wind is coming, let's see. If the wind is behind us, that's also going to help, just to help us get a few extra yards. If the wind is off the right, the bailout I think is aiming just to the left of those trees,
Yeah.
towards 4's tee box and letting it kind of do its thing. But yeah, I think this is going to be another one of those holes where if the driver's not working, I'm trying to fix it on this hole because again, I'm not trying to hit a 225, 240 yard shot and leave myself 160, 180,
Yeah, 171 from a
because
200.
that
Yeah.
that on this hole is definitely going to be impossible. Like I would take that on hole number 1 if I needed to. Obviously, we don't want to, but if that's what it comes to on hole number 1, that's fine. But on this hole, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no, like, yeah, it doesn't matter how we're feeling. We got to take driver on this one. No questions asked, because again, my miss is right, so I would rather be right over here and have 150 in rather than be short at 171 and all that. Like, it's still not a comfortable shot if I hit it right, but way more comfortable than still having that 170 in, if not
Yeah.
more. So 100% agree there. Cool. Well, this wraps up at least the portion of breaking down the first 3 holes. Again, won't be the first 3 that we play. We'll be warmed up going into those. We're gonna go into around later on, into later in the summer, I guess I should say, where we take the strategy into account. Again, a course that we played a lot, so there's nothing like groundbreaking. I think that as we go into it, though, and once we play it, we may have some different thoughts on it.